how's it going, everybody? Thanks for coming back and visiting my page. It's been kind of a nice morning today. I got my package, so I'm all excited about that. So I'm going to do a quick little kind of show of my haul, and then we're going to get back into our bead looming that we started. And that'll be the fun part because we're going to be putting the beads on and start creating. So I didn't make a very big order. It was just kind of something fun I wanted to do. Just a few little things. A lot of it was on sale, which was awesome. First of all, I got this little, I don't know if you can see that too well. It's just a little container for beads, and it's a little stackable one. So, you know, you got your lid on top here. It's kind of all crazy on it. And you can just stick your beads in there, your findings or whatever you need, and stack them up. And it's kind of a neat little thing. So I thought that'd be kind of cool to put some beads and findings. And I have honestly been using prescription pill bottles. They actually make really great storage for beads and the little stuff involved with all the jewelry and all that. So it's a nice cheap way to store them. But you have to have quite a bit of them. And I have a few, but they do make really good storage. They seal real tight, you know, and they're child-proof and pet-proof. And so if you need them, I just am able to peel the stickers right off. So that's a nice and inexpensive way to do it. But I got this little container because I thought it'd be kind of good on the go if I wanted to take my beading with me or go somewhere, and coffee shop or something, and sit and bead. So I would have this I could take with me. So that was one of the little things I got. I got another book. It's another pattern book. It's North American Beadwork Patterns. And this one's kind of similar to the one that I previously bought, but I really like it also. It's got a lot of different, that light is just like crazy bright. So there we go. It's got some applique on the back of the book. And then there's also some loom work. And it shows which each tribe, you know, like underneath each pattern, it shows what tribe it belongs to, which is really cool. So there's a lot of really great patterns in there to do some fun stuff with. So that was pretty inexpensive. I think it was about $8. So that's a lot of patterns for $8. Excited to dig into that one. And let's see. I got some more Nymo thread, which I've been needing. I was getting really low, so I got a nice big spool of that. About $5 for that, which was cool. And I also got some beading sharps, size 11. They're the John James kind, so they're tiny, really tiny little ones. But for my bead applique, I think it'll be absolutely perfect. And you get a whole bunch of them in here. Tiny, little tiny things. You can really see them. But I think that came with, I can't remember how many were in there. I think it's a lot. 25. So 25 of those guys. And that'll come in real handy for my bead applique. I'm excited about that. I've been using the longer needles, and so if I go through a spot and it kind of bends the needle a little bit, so it's not the best. Longer needles are not the best to use for bead applique. So that, I'm excited about that there. And then I did get some beads. I got, get this out of the way here. I got another assorted hank of seed beads, size 11. So got a whole bunch of those guys. Yay! It'd be fun to use those up. And that's a hank's worth. That was like $3 or so, I want to say. And then they have some sales, which was great. I did get some bone hair pipe beads. Really beautiful. Here, I'm going to bring the camera down, and we can kind of look at these a little bit better here. Let me bring this down. So I got some, these are the bone hair pipe beads here. Take some out. Just see. Really beautiful. So beautiful. I thought these would be really great for like earrings and stuff. Just so gorgeous. Absolutely love them. I've been wanting to get some of these. I have some ideas for some earrings and even maybe in some necklaces and stuff. But they are bone. They're not plastic, and that's what I wanted. All the stores, all the craft stores you go to, they're always plastic, and there's just something so, I don't know, inauthentic, and just they don't have that color to them. They don't look as good. So I really wanted to get the bone ones, so I was really excited about that. And then I also got buffalo horn hair pipes too. I'll take those out. They're really, really pretty. And I absolutely love these. I have an idea with these too. And you can see the different like colors come through from the horn on that. And those are just absolutely stunning. And like I said, I don't want plastic beads. I prefer, glass or bone or shell if I can get them. And I bought, see if I can find it here. Previously, I had bought a bone feather, and this is like a pendant. And I didn't know what to do with it because it's got the tiny little hole here, and I wanted to string it. And I wanted to use actual other bone beads and hair pipe beads, and I think I'm gonna string those together with this and use also some of the. I also got some glass crow beads, and I wanted to throw those on there with it too. And I'm gonna make that for my husband. That's a really big pendant, and so it's a more masculine piece, and I wanted to make a nice necklace for him. And I was going to add these. These are the India crow beads I got. Now these are just glass, but they're beautiful, beautiful beads. They're basically like giant seed beads, which is so cool. But they are just, I love all the different like shapes, and there's even tiny little flaws, which I don't mind. I actually prefer that because it makes your piece so unique. And these are wonderfully made. They're really kind of heavy, but I think they'd go really great with the hair pipe beads and the feather pendant for a nice necklace. And I was really happy with these. These will also be really nice for other things, little finishings on things. Tie it up with a like leather strap and stuff like that. It'd be really awesome. And then the last thing I got was the glass wampum beads. I didn't splurge. I want to get the shell ones eventually. I haven't gotten that far yet. But I did, these were on sale, and I've always wanted some wampums, and I'm going to slowly maybe get more, and I'd love to do like a wampum bracelet or something. And these you can incorporate in with your looming also. So they just shine. They're just so beautiful. I absolutely just love these. They're just wonderful. But the shell ones are really stunning. They have the purple in them. And so maybe with my next order I can get some of the actual shell ones, and I can combine them. And they have other colors, but I really would like to get some of the shell wampum beads. And I absolutely love those. I'm excited, so excited to use these. And I just think they're beautiful. So that was my haul. It doesn't seem like not a lot, but beading can get expensive. So you just got to kind of buy stuff here and there and slowly build your collection. I wanted to, I'll bring you back up here. I wanted to kind of show you all what I'm currently working on. I think I might have bit off a little more than I can chew, but that's okay. I'm going to just keep plugging away at it and working on it. I started a new bead applique, and I wasn't going to do it because I was like, man, that's really large, and I don't know if I'll ever get that done. I don't know if I'll have enough beads. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to jump in and try it because I really, really, really wanted to do this. And this was in the previous book from the video previously from that book, and it's the Dreamcatcher one, and it's got the little bear in there, and your mountains and the sun and the river, and it's just absolutely beautiful. But so far I have gotten the outline done, and I don't know if you can really tell, but it's like they're like shimmery brown. It almost made it look like a metal bar, or like it was wrapped like a real dream catcher would be. So I thought that was really pretty, but it's going to take me a while. I think I might do some videos of like kind of a bead along, and we can all hang out and bead, and I'll just kind of film as I bead, and that can also help you figure out a little bit of, you know, a little more of your own rhythm with the and how to go about doing applique. And this is a very big project. I mean, it's good sized, so it's going to take a long time and a lot of beads, but I have different ideas. I debated on doing like larger beads down here where the feathers are, and, you know, maybe adding little larger beads here and there for texture. I haven't decided yet. I'm just kind of gonna go with the flow on this one, I think, and try it out. So that's a big project I've been kind of trying to get done on the side. I don't know if you can really see too well with the lighting, but I got this whole, it was about, it wasn't 2 days, but, you know, between work and other things, you know, I got this circle done, and I wanted to get the circle done first, so I kind of knew what I had to work with on the inside. So that should be kind of a fun thing to kind of work on over the next month or 2 or 3 or however long it's going to take me, so we'll see. But I wanted to show you guys that, and I think that's pretty much all my projects I got going right now. I just, you know, kind of wanted to just focus on this guy here, so I'm real excited to see this done. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it yet. I debated on, you know, cutting it out and giving it a backing, and then like just putting a string up here and hanging it like you would a regular dream catcher on the wall. I thought that'd be kind of a cool idea. I don't want to put it on a jacket or clothing or anything, because I don't want it to get damaged in any way. But see, as I go along, we'll kind of see what happens there. I thought it would be kind of cool to add a couple of bigger beads and then like a hanging, like a string to hang it from or something. But so today I wanted to get back into the looming. In the previous video we got our loom all loaded and ready to go, and I kind of went through on how to go about do that and the supplies that you're going to need. So hopefully maybe you guys found a pattern and got your loom all ready, and we can dig in and start looming, you know, get the beads on there and start looming it up. So for mine, I'm going to use size 8 beads. And hang on a second, let me get my stuff here. Alright, so I got my loom here. It's all, remember we did this in the previous video, and if you are new to this channel or just searched it up, if you go over to my channel under the bead looming playlist, you will see getting started on bead looming. So this is, let me get my stuff out of my drawer here. Gotta keep everything in the drawer with the kittens around. This is our bead loom, and it's all set up and it's all loaded and ready to go. We got our strings all on there, and like I said before, say, okay, you're new and you picked out a pattern, and say you have 8 rows. You know, your pattern's gonna look like this, and say you have 8 rows down here. I have 11, but say you have 8, you're gonna need 9 on here. I have 11, so I have my 12 threads on there and ready to go. So you're going to need your loom, you're going to need your pattern, you're going to need your beads, and you're going to need your thread. Now if you're using a size 11 bead, these are a size 8 here, so these are quite large. Now if you look at, I'll use the blue because it's a little easier to see, you can tell the difference. This is our size 8 here, and then like this would be a size 11, so they're a lot tinier. You can kind of see the difference in the size of the hole in them and everything. So if you're using a size 11, I would definitely recommend a Nymo thread. And I think I forgot to tell you this yesterday, but I wouldn't recommend putting Nymo thread on the actual loom thread like this, because this is really stretchy and it can stretch out, and you know, it's going to kind of mess things up. It's not going to be nice and tight, and it's going to stretch on you, and it's very elastic almost. I wouldn't say elastic, but it has an elasticity to it. So I wouldn't recommend the Nymo to load your thread. You can use it to thread your beads onto the loom, but I wouldn't recommend it on this part. I would recommend a thicker, stronger thread for that. Now, for me, because I'm using a size 8, I'm going to just use, let me get it out here, I'm going to use the same thread that I used to load my loom, because this goes, I know this thread goes through, and you can also test it out. You can test out your thread that you're going to loom with, because say you wanted to try it and you only have one kind of thread, well, you can test it out and try it, but if it's too big, you're going to have to go find something else. So if you're doing size 11, you're going to need a thin size D, I would recommend, size D, size D Nymo thread. Something smaller that's going to go through those size 11 beads. But I'm doing a larger size. I'm older. I don't see very well. I find it a little easier to loom with the size 8, but I also like the way it looks. I do loom now and again with a size 11, and I also was doing it because I didn't have much Nymo to work with, so I was trying to conserve until I ordered more. Well, now that I have more, I can loom with size 11, and we can maybe do a size 11 bead loom video if you want. But today we're going to do a size 8. So you're going to need your thread, and I'm using the same thread because I know it'll fit through here. And then you're also going to need your beeswax, because we are going to wax our thread that goes through the beads. And you're also going to need a needle. And I like these Big Eye needles. They're wonderful. They work great. Easy to see, easy to work with. And they're not too small. So for example, that's going to go all the way through there. And I'm not going to have any issues going through there. But if you were to have a smaller needle, say it only goes to like here, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to pull that through. So, you know, I always kind of like to have a little bit larger of a needle. This one's really larger, but a little bit larger of a needle than the width or the width of my loom. So let me get my bead pad here ready. And I have a little bead pad that I use. You don't have to have one. You know, you could use like a paper towel or a piece of fabric. You know, anything that's going to keep them from rolling around. You don't want to put them on a hard surface like in a tray or a dish or something like that. That's going to kind of make it hard for you to keep control of your beads. These beading pads, it's kind of like a little felt type of thing. It's not felt. Before I got this, I did use felt, which worked okay, but you do kind of get caught on some of the little strands of it with your needle now and again, and beads go flying. So this one I got at the craft store. I think they gave me like 3 of them in there, and I want to say it was only like $4. So you can find something. You could even go get a piece of, not felt, but like a flannel or something like that that you could just, doesn't even need to be a very big piece, but something you could just lay your beads onto. And I'm going to bring down my needle minder I made, and you don't have to have one of these. This is just my preference. I like to have a needle minder to keep track of my needle, especially with my kittens around. It always kind of worries me that they're going to get a hold of it, and that would be pretty awful if they did. Now, I'm going to put I still have a needle on here. Let me put that away real quick. I like to tape down my loom. I know some people don't. I do. I don't like it running away from me. I don't like it sliding around. You don't have to do that. This is just my preference. Like I said, I'm not a professional, but this is how I like to do things, and this is how I've always done things. I started beading before the days of YouTube. I'm not even kidding. There were days before YouTube. And I started beading and taught myself through books and just trial and error. And some people that I talked to, I had some native friends that also have shown me a few tricks of the trade and things like that. But I never had tutorials and things like that to guide me. So this is just how I got my own little rhythm down and how I learned to do things, and it's just what stuck with me. And as you bead and as you learn, you'll go through the same thing, and everybody does, and everybody has different little things they do. So it's all kind of just based on how you learn and what you like and what works for you. And, you know, don't let anybody tell you any different. It is what it is. If somebody teaches you something that helps you, then that's cool. But if somebody's telling you you're doing it wrong, is there really a wrong way to be creative? I don't think there is. As long as you're being creative, that's all that matters. Now, and you're also going to need a little pair of scissors. I just like my little snippers, but you can use any pair, any kind of scissors, you know, anything fancy. First of all, I'm going to set my beads out, and I like to just lay a few. You don't need a whole heck of a lot of them out. I'm going to need some black. Pour a few of those out, and I'm going to make a barrette today. This isn't going to be too large of a pattern, and it's going to be pretty simple. It's not going to take us too long to go through. But, you know, that's the great thing about, whoops, a few stuck in the bottom there. That's the great thing about YouTube, is that that resource is there now for people to kind of learn and, you know, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, and you can go look it up and see. And that's kind of why I'm making these videos, is to help others, because I would have loved to have YouTube back in the day to help me through a lot of the things I did. And I wasn't, you know, blessed enough to have people in my life that beaded. You know, I had people who did other things, crochet or embroider, you know, cross stitch and, you know, cook and things like that. But it was never the crafts that I enjoyed and liked to get into. And I've always had some kind of crazy weird obsession with beading. So I would have loved to have those resources, but I'm glad we have them now. And hopefully I can help contribute to somebody else learning a new craft. Now, we got our beads all laid out and all ready to go with our pattern. And my pattern is a little different because it's from a book. But my pattern, it shows, it's almost like a little, like this little dot one, that's our turquoise color. And then the X is going to be my white. And then the line is going to be, you know, if you're drawing it yourself, you're not going to have those little, I guess you would call it like a color code, color guide. That's okay. Color it in. You're going to know what color is which for you. And, hang on a sec. My kitties are fighting. Okay, I wouldn't say that they were so much fighting. They were just kind of bickering. They're siblings, so they tend to have their little bickering now and again. But anyway, your pattern isn't going to have those little marks. You know, it might if you bought a book or whatever. But, you know, what you colored in, you're going to know what color. And like I said, I like to use colored pencils. And what I do is I just keep a, if I can find it here, hang on. I have a little binder for my beading that I keep together all my patterns and things in. And in there I keep my colored pencils so I can sit and color them when I'm not beading. And so I have a little pencil case. And I've picked out all the colors of beads that I have. And I've gone through my colored pencils and found the closest that I could find, you know, and my orange and my red and green and turquoise and blue. And so if you can find colors that are similar enough, then you can color your own patterns into the beads that you currently have. And after you get those colored in, you're going to know what bead goes where. So you don't have to have all the little fancy designs and things. So if you get a piece of graph paper and make your own, you're going to know what color's what. So you just get your beads and lay them out for all the colors that you're going to need. And oh, it looks like a couple of our turquoise ones kind of blended in with our blue ones here. And that way you'll know what color's what. You don't have to be particular. But it's kind of nice. Those little books are nice. You can order them online. I got mine online for pretty cheap, and they come pretty quick. So that's a nice place to start if you don't know where to start designing, and then you can kind of get an idea of how to design. Or you can also find some free ones online. Now to start, we're going to need a piece of thread, and I go, let me find my start here, hang on, somewhere, there we go. I like to go a wingspan, and like what I mean a wingspan, I mean put the thread in one hand and put your bobbin in the next and just go that far. And I like to have a wingspan, and I'm going to do just a little bit more because, hello, we don't need kitties and beads. Come on, go play. I'm going to do just a little bit more because I like my string long. And I always, this is just the way I am. That's the way I even when I cross stitch and embroidery, I'm the same way. Now you see how that's kind of curled up. A lot of these you can kind of just give them a tug and see how that straightened that out. Just kind of really again. Stay down, honey. And that kind of straightens out your thread. Just a soft tug. You don't pull too hard, or you know, you might mess up your thread. Just a little tug. And see how that straightened that out? Nice and straight now. Wonderful. And then I take my beeswax and just kind of run it through. I like to do the end first. And you don't need a whole heck of a lot. Just one trip over it is probably enough. Just to kind of add a little bit of slickness to your thread, to protect your thread and reduce the friction. Now, a lot of people like to just tie, and some people start at the top. This is the top for me. It looks like the bottom for you. And some people like to start at the bottom. I start at the bottom. That's just the way I've always done it. And how I start is I will take onto this very first string here, this very first one right here, and I leave a tail because I'm going to weave that tail back in. Probably about, oh, I don't know, a few inches, enough to be able to weave a couple times. And I just tie a knot here, kind of close to these grooves here, but not too close. And I'm going to tie a knot again, like so. And that's going to be our tail, and we're just going to leave this guy here hanging. I like to pull him kind of towards me so it doesn't get in the way of my weaving. And that way, after I go a little ways, or even after I finish my strand, if I'm doing something longer and I'm about to put another strand on, then I'll go back and weave it back in. But that I like to do it that way because then I can completely hide this strand here. It's not going to be shown at all. You're not going to be able to see it at all. And then we're just going to put our needle on. That's why I like these big eye needles. They're so easy. You just pull it open like that and just drop your needle or your thread through your needle. And you're not sitting there trying to, get it through a tiny little eye, which some of those eyes on beading needles are so tiny. Like I said before, I do a lot of cross stitching and stuff, and even the needles eyes on those aren't even that small. So, and I like to, bring it through, and I like to leave some space down here because you don't want to wrap up your tail within there. Now, we're all threaded up. We got our needle all ready to go. We got our end tied onto our loom here. And I'm going to bring all of this over to my left. So on the other side, because you want to bring your needle up underneath. You want to bring that needle underneath. So you tie it up over here. You want your needle on the other side of that, but you want to go underneath. So I bring my needle underneath and through. And then we're going to look at our pattern here. Now, I have to add one row of solid color on each because that's how I want my pattern to be. So I'm not going to look at my pattern for this first row. So I think it'll probably be, I'm going to use black for that because that's the color I want to use. And I'm going to need 11 beads. So I'm going to pick up 11 beads. That's not on my pattern, but because I'm not doing this full pattern. I'm only going to do this because I'm making a barrette. And I wanted a certain length. I've measured it and all that. And once you've made something, like with mine, I'd already made this bracelet I'm wearing today. And I was able to measure how many inches there are, or how many beads, how many size 8 beads there are in an inch. So for me to be able to figure out my length, I actually went off of my bracelet. So you can, if you've made something prior, you can use that as a guide to kind of let you know how many beads will give you an inch and how far you need to go. If say you want something that's 7 inches and there's 10 inches in a 10 beads in an inch, well, you know I need 70. That's going to be 70 beads long. You know what I'm saying? So this first row is not part of my pattern. I'm just going to add that. I have a little note here to add a row on each end. And I like to make sure to, if you need to write any notes, make sure to write any notes, especially at the beginning, because otherwise when you get to the end, you're going to have to tie off and then come back down here and work something more in. And you can do that too. If your length isn't right or proper, say you've gotten to the end and you need, 4 more rows of beads, and say, well, I'll put 2 rows at the top and I'll put 2 rows at the bottom. I have literally, beaded the whole thing, and then I'll come back and add 2 rows to the end if I need to, because you can move this. You can move this once, it's on there. It's not held there in place or anything. So I'm going to put 11 on here. All right, so we have all our seeds, or all our beads on our needle. I always call them seeds because they're like, they're seed beads. And so I'm going to bring those on down and make sure you're underneath on the other side. And the reason for that, you're going to see here in a minute, and just bring your beads down to the end of your thread, like so. And that's why, because you want them underneath this way. And so you take your beads and you just kind of, I'm going to pull this tail up a little. You just kind of line them up in between each one of those threads, like so. So you see how each one of these, I don't know if you can see that too well. I hope so. My camera's not the best here. So each one of these beads is going to fit in between each one of these threads. So each one of these gaps, say you got a thread here, a gap, a thread, a gap, a thread. So in other words, there's a gap for every single bead in your pattern. So you're basically going to have a gap for every single one, every single row. Now, I like to hold that there a little bit with my finger, and I like to make sure that the beads are sitting kind of snug. You'll kind of feel them pop into place too, and you'll be able to see if they're in the right spot. Like if you had, I don't even know if I can do it, 2 beads in one. Yeah, I can't do it, but maybe with a smaller bead you could. If you had 2 beads in one gap, you're gonna know, wait, no, that's not right. So I put my finger up underneath them, and then I take my needle. And you want to make sure you are above, you have to be above every single one of these threads when you go through with your needle, or your bead's going to fall out at the bottom. So you stick your needle, I like to kind of put it in an angled upward motion, not too high, but just enough to know. And you can kind of see your needle going in between. You can kind of see your needle when it's going in between. You'll be able to tell if it's on the top or the bottom, because you're going to see that needle going through. And if you don't, then you're seeing thread. So you're going to want to, I don't know if I can show you that any better. Let me see. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can do better for you guys for view. Okay, can you see that better, I hope? Now, you're going to be able to tell if that's in between. I don't know if you can see the needle coming through in between there. But you've got to make sure that you have it above each one of these. Every single one. And like I said, I like to use a kind of an upward motion. Stick my finger up under there because it's easier. And that kind of reassures it too. Kind of give your needle an upward angle. You see how that's coming through there? Like that. And you know, you're going to know if that thread didn't come through. And you can also, let's just pull it through here. And you pull your thread through on this side. And don't pull too tight, because if you pull too tight, you get warping on the sides, and then you kind of get an uneven length on each side. So you don't have to pull too tight. That thread's holding those beads on for you. And so you don't have to worry about, like, don't yank on it, you know, because that's going to make this come in, and then maybe if you don't use the same tautness on the other, that one's going to poke out, and you're not going to have an even edge, you know. So once you get that through there, get this tail out of the way, you'll be able to tell if all those beads, if that went above all of the thread, if all those beads are locked in. So what you can do is you can kind of give it a gentle little push, and if they all stay, then that means all your beads are in place and you made it through all of them properly. Because if you push and you didn't, they're going to fall out the bottom. And the way you can fix that is you can always take your needle off of your thread. Just take your needle off of there, and you can kind of get in here with your needle, like so. And you can kind of pull this out. See what I'm doing there? And you can pull that all the way through and rethread your needle and start over again. It's not the end of the world if you missed a bead. So if you missed a bead, you can kind of, you know, finagle your needle in there and try and get this little hoop pulled out of there. And then you can just pull your thread all the way through and then try again. You know, thread your needle and try again. In there we have, that's our first row there. Now, our second row is going to be part of the pattern. So after our first row, we're going to be on this side of the loom with the tail again. And we need to bring our needle up underneath again. And you don't have to pull your thread through when you do that. I do just to kind of get it out of my way. Now, as far as reading your pattern goes, you can, if your pattern's like this where it's, you know, symmetrical and it lines up and it's an even pattern, then if you're starting at the, with me, if I'm starting at the bottom, I want to start at the bottom. Like if you're, hang on, I think I have an example I can use. If you're doing a pattern where it's a, say it's a picture and it's not a geometric pattern, and I don't know, these are kind of hard to see, but for example, I know there's one here that has like a face and stuff. I can find it. Okay, this is just an example. But see, this is a picture of a little Indian guy. And if you were starting this pattern, okay, you would have to start, if you're starting at the bottom of your loom, you want to start at the bottom of the pattern. If you're starting at the top of your loom, you want to start at the top of your pattern. Because you can't, you know, go from one into the other. Otherwise, I mean, you could work up, you'd end up working upside down, basically, if you didn't start on the right part of your pattern. So if you have a non-geometrical design, you're going to want to be specific on where you start. With me, I could start on either end here because it's the same pattern. But since I'm starting at the bottom, I'm going to start at the bottom on my pattern. That's just how I roll. And that's how you want to roll, because otherwise you might mess up your pattern, and that would be upsetting and a lot of work down the drain. And you don't want to be looming in something that should be on the other end, or it's going to mess up your pattern. You want to keep track of where you are in your pattern and try not to get tangled up here. So since I'm starting at the bottom here, I'm going to start at the bottom on my pattern. So here looks like we're going to need 2 black, a turquoise, a white, 3 light blues, another white, another turquoise, and 2 black. Okay, so I got my pattern there for the first go. I'm going to bring my beads on through. Bring them on down the line here. And then I'll lay them right and snug next to that first row of beads, like so. And I like to kind of snap them in. I kind of give them a little push from the bottom and kind of snap them in between the threads. But if, say, you're using smaller beads, you won't be able to do that. Not for a little while. It's going to take a while to tighten that up. But for now, that works just fine. Like I said, I'm using a size 8, so it's a little different when you're using different size beads. So we got that on there all laid out, and I'm gonna kind of angle my needle up just a touch. And you can see as you go that shiny part of the needle coming through, and you can kind of see it go in between the beads as you push it through. And I'll bring it up again and show you again. See if I can get a nice close view for you. So as I go, you can kind of see the needle as it's coming through. And there's our second row there. There you go. I'll pull that on through. Go, got our second row in there. Now I like to, because you can kind of see it's not really setting all that straight, as I go along, I just have like a little ruler, a little wooden ruler, you can use a metal one, and I just kind of gently on both sides, just kind of give them a little push, and that lines it up really nice there. And they're going to set together and line up real pretty when you do that. And it keeps them nice and even. You see people when they rug loom and they're pushing it down real hard. You don't have to push it hard, just a little gentle little push. Now I like to, I grabbed my wrong sticky notes. When I'm going down my pattern, I like to take a little sticky note and I kind of mark, okay, well I did this row. You can see me here. I did this row here. And so I'm going to be on that second row, and I'm going to put my sticky note right there, just so I know where I've been. And that way it's telling me, well, you did row 1, now you're on row 2. And then after I'm done with row 2, I'll move it again to row 3, and I'll move it again, and I'll work my way down. And that way, if you get interrupted or the phone rings or something, you're not going to sit here and have to figure out, oh, where was I? So that way, just double checking here. All right, looks good. Now we're going to do our second row. We got 1 black, 3 turquoise, white, a blue, a white. And a lot of these are geometric patterns, are like mirror images where you get to the middle of it and the other side mirror images the side you just did, because they're geometric, and that's actually kind of nice too, so you're not super focused on the pattern. All right, bring it on down, And you'll see this one kind of looping around this side, and then this one's looping around this side. So it's basically just like going around and around and around and around through these and weaving your beads in between. That's all loom beading is. It's so simple. It's nice and relaxing, and it goes really fast once you get the loom started. All right, make sure we're all in between each gap. Each bead has its little gap to set in. Kind of work our way through here. Make sure the needle's on top of the threads and pull through, just like that. There we go. And there's our third row. And see, it goes really quick once you get into it. And I'm going to move my sticky note up to the third one because I just did the second one. Add some more beads. And the bead pad comes in nice. It's a really great way to hold on to your beads without them rolling around everywhere and losing them, making a mess. They will still fall off of them. It's not like they're glued on there, but they do keep them under control nice. All right, got all those on there. Pull that through. I like to set my needle down on my winder as I pull my thread through. And bring it up. And you can feel them kind of fall into place. Here we go. Angle my needle up. Bring it on through. And pull. Like I said, you don't have to pull hard. There's no sense in pulling hard. It will hold on tight. It looks flimsy, but I promise you it really isn't. It's not going anywhere. I like to every now and again go through and just kind of straighten it all out real nice. Do one more row here. Turquoise. And there's so many different patterns, and patterns are actually really fun to make. I'm just doing this because I have a lot of patterns on here I wanted to work through, but they're really actually fun to make too. And you don't have to go with the ones you see or the ones that you find in books and stuff. You can make your own. Just get creative. Kind of snap those into their spaces. Each bead in their little individual gap. Always double check before you bring your needle through. And push it through. There we go. You can kind of see that pattern coming to life on that, can't you? All right. Now I think I'm going to just show you a couple more rows, and then I will come back and show you how to tie off and start a new one if you need, a new thread if you run out. And then we'll finish her off and I'll tie it off. So let's see. I finished that one there. We're going to move our little sticky note up. Get up 2 black, turquoise, and white. Gather up our beads we need here. Okay, we've got our beads strung on our needle, and we'll bring it on through. Press them into our spots. Make sure they're all in their spots. And angle our needle up and you can kind of feel with your needle when you scrape the top of that bead too, on the inside. Pull it on through gently. Here we go. Got another row. Bring it up underneath. And then we can string on some more beads. We'll move our sticky note for the next row. 2 black. Kind of strong, and we'll bring them through. Push them into their little gaps in between the thread. Angle our needle up and kind of feel the tops there with our needles. And that sounds silly, but you can totally feel it. Bring it through. Just like that. And then you just keep going all the way down your pattern like that. Really pretty. I like how it's looking. And you can give it a little tap here and there, straighten it out. You don't have to do that. That's just something I do. And I'm going to keep working on this a little bit more, and I will be right back. Alright, so I got a little further on here, and I wanted to show you how to start, like if you were running out of thread and you needed to put more thread on. So I'm going to show you how to do that. That way, if you do run out, you know what to do and how to handle hiding the tails and all that. So let's say I'm low, which I'm not, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So I need to put more thread on. So what I want to do is with this one, I'm not going to tie a knot here like I did here. Okay, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to try and get a little bit underneath. See this? There's this thread right here on the edge, and I want to get underneath that and through the bead as best I can. So I'm kind of underneath there. See if I can bring it closer and show you here. So I'm going to try and get it, let's see, where am I here? Kind of underneath that bead. And you don't want to go in that same row you were just in, because that's not going to do any good. You're just going to fall down and lose all your beads. So what you want to do, now if you go above those threads on the way through, no big deal. I push mine all the way through, like so. And just bring it on through. Might be a little bit of resistance with it because there's a lot going on there. You got a couple threads already going through. And then I'm going to start into this third row here, the one next to it. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in 3 or 4 beads and then bring it up. You know, you can pick whatever beads you want to pick it up in, but I'm going to pick it up and bring it through the top here. And I'm going to pull it all the way through like so. Okay, and then after that, now that I got that done, I want to tie a little knot. And when I do this, let's see if I don't know if I can bring this close enough for you guys to see. It's hard for me to see it, I guess probably more than you. So my thread's coming up out of this bead right here. And what I want to do is I want to take my needle, I want to tie a little knot just to secure that thread. And I want to go underneath and through I would call this the vertical thread right next to it. See that? See how my needle's up underneath and kind of through that thread there. I'm going to bring it up through that. And I'm not going to pull all the way through because I want to make a knot. So I'm going to leave a little hoop or loop, I guess you'd call it, like so. And I'm going to bring the knot down and just kind of give it a gentle tug. And I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to bring my needle up through that one thread. And then I'm going to make my knot. And then you kind of have a little double knot there. But don't worry, as you pull it, you can kind of pull it up just a little, up towards that bead. See how when I pulled it, it went right in between those two beads instead of kind of on the line there. And then I'm just going to go back through the bead next to it. And I'm going to pull it through. And when you pull, you're going to want to kind of give it not too heavy of a tug, but kind of a gentle little pull. And see, that knot completely disappears. Completely gone. You can't even see it. So that hides that knot really, really well. And you can do that one time, 2 times, however many times you want to do it. Hang on, I got my tape all in a knot here. You can do that however many times you want to do that to secure it. And what I like to do, I don't cut at the end though. So for me, I'm actually going to go through here and do that again, just to kind of show you. And bring it up through that bead. Doesn't really matter what bead you bring it up through. And I'm going to bring that needle in between that thread, going vertically. And tie a knot in that. And that kind of hides that knot really nice. And then I'm going to do that one more time. You don't have to double knot every time. Like when I do it, my first couple knots are just one knot, and then my last knot I make a double knot. And then instead of going all the way to the end, I'm going to go just a few more beads over and bring it up through a bead. Say about right there. Bring it up through there and pull all the way through. And then you give it a nice snip. And I like to kind of pull it up a little and snip it close, and it's completely gone. You can't even see or tell that there's any knots or thread there. And that's a great way to hide it because you're not seeing any strings come through or little, knots. You can't see the knots bending it, or it's not warping your pattern at all. And it's a great way to hide, discreetly hide your knot. Now I'm going to show you how to hide the tail. You remember our tail over here at the beginning? And sometimes what I like to do, I have smaller big eye needles, and I like to use the smaller ones on the shorter tails because my big one, I don't want to bend that needle. So I'm going to, if I can find it here, there it is. I got a little short big eye needle there I'm going to use. And we'll just kind of thread him up here. Okay, oh, I thought I had it, maybe I didn't. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with this last one. So I'm going to take my little tail from the beginning, and that's why I kind of leave a tail. Some people just snip it close. I like to leave a tail so I can hide any evidence there was a tail there. I'm going to bring that under that first thread. Now, I don't know if you can see that properly or not. See, if you look at how I'm putting that in there, it's underneath that thread instead of on top. So not on top. You want to go under. Like so. So under that. And if it, like I said, if it goes above the threads as you go through these other beads, that's not a big deal. You bring it on through the one bead. And then we will tie a knot here, like so. And this one's not going to need very many knots because it's already knotted. And do a couple, a double knot, I guess you'd call it, like so. And then that bead gets kind of hidden in between there. And then I'm going to bring that through the bead next to it. I'm going to bring it up in that bead, like that there. And that way it's not coming out at the end. I don't like to cut at the end because sometimes little stringies come out and you have the risk of cutting your thread over here. So I always bring them up kind of more on the inside because I don't want people to see that. They don't need to see that. And then let's give it a snip, like so. And that is how you tie off your thread when you're finished. Now, and your tail when you're at the beginning there. And that, see, I didn't tie that off until I had already gone quite a ways. And it's okay if it just sits there. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to fall off or anything. Now, when you start a new thread, because you know you ran out and now you need to put more on. So when you start a new one, just get your thread and bring it up underneath your loom. And don't tie it. You don't have to knot this one. You don't have to tie it or anything. Just leave it hanging. Just let it hang. Let it do its thing. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick up your next row of your pattern. So I already did that one, so I need to go up one, and we'll do this one real quick here. Let me get my beads on my needle. The cord's in my way. I know that thread's not very long, but I only have a few rows left to do, so I'm not going to cut another long thread. I don't see any point in it. Okay, so we got our beads on our needle. We're going to bring them down the thread. Make sure that they don't fall off the end here. Okay, and just kind of bring them through. Now I hold on to this other end so they don't fall off the other end, because then you got beads everywhere. And then I like to put them up on their spot, bring them up to their spot, and put them in their little grooves, in their little spaces, like that, maybe. Okay. Just put them there, and then I like to give myself some tail, and you can gauge it after you get the beads on there because they'll slide. Just try and keep your beads in place, and I'm going to give myself a little more tail than that because I'm going to tie it off like I did the other ones, and then just leave that hanging there. Do not tie it or knot it or do anything with it. Just leave this tail just doing its thing, and then we bring our needle through like we normally would, up and over those other threads like that, and then just gently, really gently pull this one because we're attached with that other one there, like so. And I'm going to redo this one because that black bead is really big, and see how it's offsetting my row. I'm going to take that black bead off of there and start this guy again because I don't want that looking all goofy like that. So let me get that going real quick. Hang on. Okay, so I rethreaded those beads, and that's another thing, you can kind of regulate your beads, and if one's like really fat and one's like really thin, or one's like kind of wonky looking, you can, you know, make sure you don't get that on there. The more uniform your beads are, the better your looming is going to look. And that one was really offsetting this whole thing here. So we're going to do this again. And that looks way better this time. And we're going to leave our tail here. So this is starting a new thread. So leave that tail hanging and bring our needle through. Just like so. And we'll bring that tail through and tie him in after we get a few rows on. I like to get a few rows going, kind of stabilize it first. All right. And I always like to make sure that your tail's towards you. And that way it's not going to knot weird. That's better. That was a little odd there. Don't know what his deal is. There we go. And I'm going to continue working. I got a few rows left, and when I finish, I will come back and show you how to finish it off. Okay, I'm all finished with my pattern here. I'm going to double check and make sure that my barrette will fit it. Looks perfect. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to my little needle here, and we will tie it off. So like I showed you before, same thing, same deal. Go underneath that first bead and bring her through. What I like to do is just add a couple little knots on it. Oh, where's my tail? There it is. Bring my needle up a little. Just gonna do a knot here and another one, like so. And then I'm gonna bring it through, and I'm gonna do that again on the other row of beads next to that, actually. Just because I like to make the ends nice and secure. And always make sure to knot on that vertical thread, the ones going from one bar to the other. Don't do it on the horizontal ones, because that is not going to hold and it's going to pull your beads off. Okay, got that through there. And I'm going to take it down to that bead, like that. Give it a little tug, make sure that knot goes into that bead, and snip it off, like so. And then we also had our little tail from when we switched our thread, and we'll hide him real quick. Thread it onto our needle. Go. And I'm going to bring him up here. There. And I'm just going to do a quick little double knot on him. Real quick right there. And right here. Bring it through. If we can find our spot here. Oh. See, this is a left-handed one for me, so I'm kind of clumsy with my left hand. And I'm going to do that again over here real quick like. Might be a little hard to pull through because of that other knot there. I might not be able to get that through. Yeah. I don't think I can do that. So we'll go down. I'll go down to this one. I forgot I had that other knot there. Bent my needle a little bit. Oh no, that's okay. That's the way beading needles are. They bend really easily. Sometimes I have found the bent ones I work better with because it's all like they're broken type of thing, you know? Kind of like breaking in a new pair of shoes. And a knot there. Oops. And bring it on through. Maybe not. There we go. Like so. Taking off the needle here. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to give it a little tug. There. Nice. All right. Looks beautiful. Give it a little snip. All right. And that is our finished project or product there with the looming. Now, I'm going to show you how to take the loom off, take your project off the loom, but I'm not going to, I don't have enough time today to show you how to make the barrette. So if you want to take it off the loom and set it aside, and you can continue to loom and make other things, that's fine. I'm going to just show you how to remove it from the loom, just so if you need your loom available to keep working on something, if you want, you can. But I will try and be on tomorrow to upload the video on how to make it into a barrette, which will be absolutely beautiful. I'm so excited for it. It's super easy to take your work off the loom. You just have to unscrew your wing nuts on the end and see how it kind of it'll just drop right off of there. See how that just kind of came right off there? And don't worry, these aren't going to fall off. Don't go like crazy with it. I just lay it down somewhere safe until you're able to get your final product or project done. And see, then you can just remove it directly off of the loom there. And that's your finished project. Now, don't worry about cutting these off and tying them all up, because the way I do my barrettes, I do not do that. So, like I said, put it somewhere safe for now until we can get to the next video. Maybe up on a shelf somewhere, or somewhere out of reach where it's not going to get messed up. And that should be fine until we get to our next video. So the next video, I'm going to show you how to make this into a barrette. So that will be our next video. I appreciate everybody watching. Thanks for coming by. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments, or if you just want to say hi. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great day.